Hi, welcome once again to our YouTube channel. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. Really appreciate you. Today we quickly want to take a look at the samples that Neco has released for this year's qualitative analysis examination. So the samples that we have two samples. We have sample C and sample D. So we'll quickly look at the both of them, and then we'll talk about possible tests that can be seen or that we could come across, and then what we'll be experiencing in talking about these samples. So let's start with the first sample, sample C. What are we to expect if we come across sample C? Okay, so let's say sample C plus distilled water. Let's say plus 5 ml of distilled water. Yes. So when this particular test was carried out in the lab, what we observed was this. We observed completely dissolved to give a clear solution. So since it's completely dissolved, it informed us that it is a soluble salt that is present there. Soluble. So that was the first thing that we identified or discovered. So that we tested that particular specimen with that particular solution with litmus paper. Okay, so it is now solution C. Solution C plus litmus. So we tested with the two litmus papers, and then we discovered that the blue litmus paper was colorized. The blue litmus paper changed its color. So blue litmus paper turns red. That was an observation. So from this now we could infer that what we are looking at is an acidic substance. Sample C is acidic. Sample C is acidic, so we could infer that. Now let's go to the test proper now. Looking at this now, we chose to divide the solution of C into parts, so we'll be able to carry out series of tests on them. So to the first portion of sample C, here's our first and here's our second. This was our first and this was our second, and here we have our third. To first portion, of solution C, first portion of solution C plus in drops, we observed that there was the formation of white precipitates. Formation of white precipitates, and that's okay. We went further to test again in excess and in excess. In excess sodium hydroxide, we discovered that the soluble substance was soluble in excess sodium hydroxide, the PPT. So the white precipitate dissolved in the mixture. So precipitate soluble in excess sodium hydroxide. So that inferred to us that we had probably lead or calcium, lead ion, lead 2+ or calcium 2+ is suspected. We suspect that we have these samples in this particular test that we have just carried out. And so since we are having two samples, we needed to go further to ascertain what we have there. So we went further to test with aqueous ammonia as well. To the second portion now. Second portion of solution C plus aqueous ammonia in drops. To this, we discovered that white precipitates were also formed. Formation of white precipitates. And then in excess, aqueous ammonia, the substance was insoluble. Precipitate remains insoluble in excess aqueous ammonia. So that told us that there is probability of lead present. Told us that there was a probability of lead present in the substance. So we couldn't stop there. We still had to carry out more tests. If you are having lead present there, let's carry out so to say a confirmatory test. So we decided to carry out this test as well, which is reacting it with dilute HCl. So to the third portion now. Third portion of solution C plus dilute HCl plus heat. Yes, after we added HCl, we also decided to heat it. And we discovered that we had the formation of white precipitate, and that the precipitate dissolved when heated. Formation of white PPT which dissolved on heating and reappeared on cooling. So this confirmed to us that we have lead to be present in that substance. Lead 2 plus confirmed. So we could also go further to check again. We still have another test that can be carried out to confirm what we're actually talking about. So that led us to look at this test also. So to the fourth portion. Of solution C, we added potassium tetrahydrochromate. We added this, and then from that we discovered that there was a formation of yellow precipitates. Formation of yellow precipitates. So yellow precipitate was formed, and this also confirmed to us that we have lead in that substance. So lead is also confirmed. These are tests that could be carried out on sample C. You can see them. First we added distilled water, and it made us understand that it was a soluble salt. and then reacting it with litmus paper, it turned the blue litmus paper to red, indicating that it is an acid. And then we went further to test with sodium hydroxide in drops. In drops we had formation of white precipitate, and in excess of sodium hydroxide the precipitate disappeared. So soluble, the precipitate was soluble in excess sodium hydroxide, and that's suspected that we had lead or calcium ion in that particular substance. So we went further to check what could be exactly inside the substance. So we discovered after we reacted it with sodium hydroxide with aqueous ammonia, reacting with aqueous ammonia, we had formation of white precipitate again, and then in excess aqueous ammonia we had dissoluble the precipitate remaining. So the precipitate did not dissolve in excess aqueous ammonia. So that confirmed or showed also that there was presence of lead in that particular substance. So we needed to confirm our thesis, and that was why we actually went further to do this confirmatory test by reacting that sample C with dilute HCl, and then we heated. So when we reacted sample C with dilute HCl, we discovered that there was a formation of white precipitate, and then when we heated it, the white precipitate disappeared. But on cooling, when the substance cooled down, there was a reappearance of this precipitate. The white precipitate reappeared again after the substance had cooled. So that confirmed to us that we had lead in that substance. We also went again to check again, and we had lead. We had the substance reacted with potassium tetrahydrochromate, and we discovered that we had formation of yellow precipitate, and this also is another confirmatory test for the lead. So these are tests that we carried out on sample C. So talking about sample D now, so our sample D, the first test, sample D, plot 5 ml of distilled water. We discovered that there is a formation of colorless solution. It forms colorless solution. This also in fact shows that the substance was soluble. Soluble salts present. Then we carried out another test using litmus now. Using litmus now, solution C plus litmus. This time around we discovered that red litmus paper was turned to blue. Red litmus paper turned to blue. So this invariably told us that we have an alkaline substance or a basic substance in that particular sample. And then we went further to carry out our next test. So what could be inside our sample? That led us to talk about the third test. That was reacting it with barium chloride. So we reacted with barium chloride. Sample D, first portion of solution D plus barium chloride. So we had the formation of white precipitates. White precipitate is formed. That probably suggested that we have SO42 minus present there. We also suspected SO32 minus. We also suspected CO32 minus triazocarbonate. All of these were ions that were suspected. And then we checked again, adding dilute HCl. So this plus dilute HCl. When we added dilute HCl, we discovered that all of the PPT, they were insoluble. Precipitate remains insoluble. So that gave us an inclination that we had SO4 in it, SO42 minus present. So we couldn't stop here, we had to continue our check. So we went further to test again. We tested again. This time around, reversing this process of number 3. So to the second portion now. Second portion of solution D plus dilute HCl first. Plus dilute HCl. And when we did that, we discovered that there was no visible reaction. No visible reaction noticed. And then by the time we added barium chloride to it, we had the formation of white precipitate. White precipitate is formed. And so that also gave us an idea that we have SO42 minus that is present in that substance. So we continued our check. So we had to do a confirmatory test now. Since we have seen SO4 showing up in 2-3 places. Third portion of solution D plus potassium tetrahydromanganate in drops. When we did that, we had the formation of brown precipitate. Brown precipitates formed. And then we decided to add this particular reagent in excess. and in excess potassium tetrazomanganate, we discovered that they were soluble precipitates remains insoluble. So this gave us an idea that what we were having there, initially we had SO3 minus confirmed. So these were the tests that we carried out using all of our specimen, all of the sample that we were given by Neco. So please try as much as possible to go through them. So these were the tests that were carried out using the samples that have been given to us by Neco, starting from C. And so for D, we did all of these tests here, talking about D being dissolved in water to give colorless solution, informing to us that it was a soluble salt that was in it. And then when we tested it with litmus paper, we actually got our red litmus paper turning to blue. So it told us or informed us that it was an alkaline substance. And then we reacted it with barium chloride. We tested our solution D with barium chloride. We had the formation of white precipitate, and by the time we added dilute HCl to it, the white precipitate was remaining there. It remained insoluble. So these were the things that we inferred from such. We discovered that could have been as a result of the presence of SO4 minus or SO3 minus, also the CO3 minus. All of these were things that could have led to us having these results here, as in talking about white precipitate which was formed when we added barium chloride. But by the time we added dilute HCl, that we had the remainder of the precipitate, it informed us that there was a possibility of having SO4 minus there. So we check again to confirm or to ascertain what we have there. So we reverse this particular thought process here. So instead of bringing barium chloride first, we decided to bring dilute HCl first. So we discovered that there was no visible reaction in that particular reaction. So when we added barium chloride to it, there was a formation of white precipitate, which also suspected or told us, informed us that there was presence of SO4 minus. And then to confirm what we have found so far, we had to check with potassium tetrazomanganate. And when we did that, there was a formation of brown precipitate. And this brown precipitate remained after adding the substance in excess. So it confirmed to us that there was presence of SO3 minus. So that is about our qualitative analysis. So that is about our qualitative analysis for this Neco examination. Please try as much as possible to go through them, get yourselves familiarized with what you have talked about, and I wish you success in your examination. Thanks and bye for now.